Today concept is about variables, guys. Okay. So before going to our practical examples on variables, let's go through some theory. Okay, what is variable, what syntax look like, and let's go into some theory. So in simple terms, variables are containers for storing data values. In simple terms, variables are container for storing data values. Once variable created, some space allocated to store some data with some reference to the variable name. Okay, I will tell you what do you mean by every point so that we can create a variables in Python by using the equal operator. Okay, let's say this is the syntax to create the variable actually. A is equal to 10. That means that A is the variable name, left side part is the variable name. After equal is the value or object we are going to store into this variable. So why you are storing into this variable? You want to use this value in multiple places. That's why we creating variable and use this variable wherever we need this data. Get me point, guys? ఈ వేరియబుల్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకొని దాంట్లో ఒక వాల్యూ పెడతాము, స్టోర్ చేసుకుంటాము. స్టోర్ చేసుకున్నాక దాన్ని ఈ వాల్యూ ఎక్కడైతే నీకు ఈ రిఫరెన్స్ కావాలో సింపుల్ గా నువ్వు వేరియబుల్ ను రిఫర్ చేస్తావు. ఆటోమేటిక్ గా వేరియబుల్ లో స్టోర్ అయిన డేటా నీ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కి ఇచ్చేస్తుంది. ఓకే. A is the variable name, 10 is the value stored in this variable. Let's go to the Python editor. Here, we go here. I'm just going to do some 2 or 3 classes only on this shell, guys, Python shell. So after completion of maybe, you know, operators or something, then we go to the other some advanced ideally. So there I will show you how to run the code, how to write the code and all. But at least for 2 more classes, we are going to use only the Python ideally, which comes with the Python software by default. Okay. So variables are used to store data. Why store data? Why you are storing your data into your memory card, your phone? For future reference, right? For future reference. Like this in program also, if you store anything on the any variable in the it is going to store that particular object in the memory. Okay. So until unless if you clear it, it will clear. Otherwise, after completion of your program execution, it will be cleared automatically. But if wherever we are creating some variable means, wherever we are creating some variable like this means, there is some space allocated to this variable. So that means that 10 is going to store in memory. So in order to store this, there may be it takes some bytes to store the data. So that means variable creation is costly thing. If it is really required, then only create the variables. Otherwise, try to avoid the creating variables in simple terms. So if your program demands to use case demands to use a variable, yeah, use it. Otherwise, try to avoid them unnecessarily. Don't waste memory. Okay. So the syntax is similarly something like this, guys. Var name equal to and object. Object is nothing but the any Python value. That could be integer, that could be list, that could be any Python object. Okay. This is the syntax. We use equal operator to create the variables in Python. Let's see that. Let's say name is, let's say you can give that company name. Company underscore name is equal to what? Company underscore name is equal to, let's say Capgemini. Here, when I refer this variable, when I try to refer, sorry, I think it's not printed. Company name. When I try to enter this, see, whenever I entered on the here, what is happening? Python is looking for this identifier in the memory, program memory. If this identifier is found, it is a variable, so that whatever value it was stored here previously, it is going to fetch and show it to you like this. So for example, I'm trying to in the print the name, I'm trying to access the name variable, which is not available in the memory. Let me run this. What is happening, guys? Let me scroll a bit. What is happening here?
Name error.
Name is not defined, right? If I try to access age, name error, age is not defined. That means that whenever we try to access anything like this, Python will look for this identifier in the memory location, memory in Python stack memory or heap memory. Okay. So if this particular identifier not found, it simply gives the error. If you define, then only this name is going to be available in the memory. Okay. If you not define, how it is going to available? If you store it, then only you can fetch it. Without storing, how can you access that? So this is how it works. Okay. So if, for example, now I am defining age is equal to 27. If I access I am getting data or not now, but here it giving the error, but here it is not giving the error because in this line, age is equal to 25 means Python is going to create one variable name with age, and it is going to store value 27. So wherever I refer age, I always get the value whatever I have stored into this variable. I am updating this value with some new value. If I refer age, will I get 27 or 30? Anyone confirm, please? 30. See, if you are trying to assign the any value if you are trying to assign any value to the existing variable, old value will get overridden with the new value. That means that here, if you observe it, age is equal to 10, age is equal to 30, age is equal to 40. Here, when I print a, what will get? Tell me, guys. 10, 40. Why 40? Because this is the one latestly added to this
Later.
variable. That means that previous ones will get overridden, right?
Override.
Yeah. So I'm expecting 40. Let's see, will I get 40 or not? Yes, I am getting 40. This is just a comment, guys. For your understanding, I am writing it's totally optional. So age is 40 now. Clear? So this is how we create the variables. Let's say create variable. Is it visible for you, or let me scroll up a bit? Is it visible, everyone?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, Badra.
Yeah. Create a variable to store number. To store number. So let's say salary equal to 30,000. Salary is equal to 30,000. Okay. Like that, create a variable to store location. Let's say location is equal to Hyderabad. Create a variable to store more locations. Simple, guys, nothing. So simply locations. These are the like different data types we are dealing, but we will discuss everything later. Locations is equal to, if more than one location, we can simply keep the stuff inside one list. In order to deal with more than one value, we store like this. Like this, you can store any number of items with the comma separate. This one we call it as a list in Python. Do not worry, we are going to discuss about end-to-end about list later. Okay. If I type locations, here whatever I have stored here, I'm just fetching it. If I type only location, what I'm going to get, guys? Hyderabad. Anyone understood the difference here? This one is one variable, this one is another variable. This variable stored only the single string, but this variable holds the array. Okay, I mean list. List is nothing but the whenever you want to deal with the collection of values, that time we usually go with the advanced data structure like list or tuple or dictionary. It is some little more advanced compared to today class. We will discuss them later. Okay, everyone understood the syntax to create the variables, the purpose of storing variables now. So let's say A is equal to 20, B is equal to 30, C is equal to A plus B. So if you observe here, in this case, we created one variable called A and storing 20. In this case, we created a variable called B, we are storing 30. And the C variable value is going to be based on these two values, A plus B. That means that internally what is happening here? Generally, A plus B means what is A value? 20, right? Plus what is B value? 30. 20 plus 30 means what is the output?
50.
50. So that means that whatever the output it is returned, this expression returned, that value is going to be stored into C. Why you need to store? If you want this output to be used in somewhere in a program future, you store it. Otherwise, you can simply print it like this. If you print it, it just returning that value and storing. But in order to use this output somewhere in our program for future reference, that time these variables can be created to store this output temporarily. Use this wherever required. Clear this point? Yeah. Let's go to the theory part again. Syntax to create a variables, variable name equal to value. This is the example to create it. Here A and B are the variable names. 10 and 20 are the values stored in these variables. Creating variable Python, I already discussed. This is how we create the variable. This is how we do the expression. So this is one way of creating variables. So sometimes we want to create a variable, multiple variables with the same value, some constant. In that case, Python supports this kind of operation also. Within single line, you can create a multiple variables, but with a single value. Okay, I will show you multiple ways to do that, but I'm going to do some examples on that. Multiple assignment. Multiple assignments can be done in Python at a time. Okay, multiple assignment examples is A is equal to B is equal to C is equal to 10 means 10 is assigned to all variables A, B, and C. See, when I type A, I am getting 10. When I type B, getting 10. When I type C, getting 10. This is called multiple assignment in Python. Let's do some examples on multiple assignment. So let's say we want to store some constant value 10 to the different variables. For example, let's say salary 1 equal to salary 2 equal to salary 3 is equal to 30,000. Salary 1, salary 2, salary 3 is equal to 3,000. So here what is happening, internally, Python is going to create three variables in Python, and each variable is going to store 3,000 as a value. So this statement is equivalent to, I will show you this. Salary 1, salary 2, salary 3. So if you want to define like this, within one single line you can do it. If you don't want to do like this, you can simply define in the 3 lines. Salary 1 is equal to 4,000. Salary 2 is equal to 4,000. Salary 3 is equal to 4,000. Here we are just adding only single value, same value to the all variables. Why do we need to write 3 lines of code? You can simply define like this because Python supporting this syntax. Clear, guys? This is one way of creating variables at the same value. And another thing also there. I am showing that another approach. So let's say age 1 comma age 2 comma age 3 equal to 20 comma 30 comma 40. Age 1 20, age 2 sorry 30, age 3 40. See, this order is matter, guys. If you are defining something like this first value is going to store into the first variable. Second value is going to store into the second value. Third value is going to store into the third value. So am I able to pitch as per that? For example, if you reverse this one, see, while using this kind of syntax, order is very, very important. For example, if by mistake you used 2 here, used 1, for example. So here age is getting swapped, right? Wrongly, 20 is supposed to for the age 1. But 20 is now assigning to age 2, right? Age 2 20, age 1 is age 3 is same thing. So while creating multiple variables with different values in the single line, be careful with the order based on this value. So this is how we create a variables in Python. Let's go to the document again. Yeah, some examples. Create a variable, store numbers. A is equal 10, B is equal 30. 10 and 30 are numbers, right? Create a variable, store some string data. So name is equal to Badra. Here, if you observe that, whenever I am saying string means you that particular data should be encoded with either single quotes or double quotes or triple quotes. Okay. So this one we call it, this is how we create a data type string. So we will discuss about string later in depth analysis. And the location, this is also a string. Wherever you are dealing with some names, some alphabet kind of data, that time we go with the string data type. And create a variable to store list of data. We already discussed, right? If it is single one, you can store like this. But for example, you want to store the collection of same items. Let's say fruit names. I can say orange, mango, and banana, right? If we do not have this kind of thing, fruit 1 is equal to orange, fruit 2 is equal to, we have to create 3 different variables. But why? We can, Python provide a one list. These all comes under the same category. So simply define this, store this like this as a basket. Okay. Create variable to store dictionary. So do not worry about this list to dictionary and all, guys. We are going to discuss. These all are the Python data types in actually. So we are going to work with all of them one by one later. Employee is equal to name Badra, age colon 29. Do not worry about the syntax also. Create a variable to store tuple data. This is how we define tuple. Gender is equal to male comma female. Here I used parentheses. This is tuple. If I use this one we call it as a list. These two are two different data structures in Python. There is a purpose for every data structure. We are going to learn about every data structure later. Create a variable to store set data. This is how we store the set data. So what is set and all? No questions as of now. We will discuss later this one also. So one point here I want to highlight is whenever you might have worked with some compiled programming language like C, C++, Java. If you observe it, while creating variable, am I dealing with any data type here? Am I dealing with any data type here?
Yes.
No, right? I no need to declare any data type. Python will decide automatically. Let's say no need to define data type while creating variables in Python. Python takes care about data type at runtime. Okay. No need to define data type while creating variables in Python. Python takes care about data type at runtime. What do you mean by that? Let me check here. See here, in case of C or C++ or compiled programming languages, Static languages. Yes, how do you define a variable, guys? Int a is equal to 30. If you want to store single character, char gender equal to m, like this. If you want to store string location is equal to HYD. So maybe there is a difference there. Like this, we have to define in compiled programming languages. If it is single quote, single quote. If it is a string, that time we have to use double quotes. So here in C, C++ compiled programming language or any .NET or Java, any programming languages, if you want to create a variable, we have to specify the data type before that variable name, because this is the syntax you need to follow while working with these languages. But Python is Python is dynamic type language. Data type language. We know type will variable type will decide at runtime and not at compile time. Everyone clear on this? If I want to define this, I can simply a is equal to 30. That's it. Python is very simple. We no need to worry about what data type I have to specify here. A is equal to some string. Yeah, it stores it. So just assign. If you want to store something, just create a variable name and add object. So you no need to worry about what data you are going to store, integer or character or string or any object. Okay. So Python takes care about it. Whenever it is executing, Python compile this line, and while assigning this value into this variable, it internally checks that. It internally checks whether this is a integer or whether this is a string or whether this is a, and maintain the type automatically at runtime, but not at compile time. That's why we no need to specify data type. Python is a dynamic type language. We no need to specify it. Python will decide the type at runtime based on the value we are assigning to this variable. Let's see that it provided one function called type. I am saying a is an integer data type. It is coming as a, sorry, here I overridden, right? Here a is 30. Here I have overridden this value with this string. That's why it is coming as a string. Let's say a is equal to 30 now. Type of a. What it is saying? It's a class integer. Let's say a is equal to 22.3. Type of a. What is saying? Float. That means that Python is able to recognize the value and as able to assign the data type based on the value, right? Here I assign the integer to this variable. I am just checking the type, what type it has decided at runtime. It is an integer. Here a is equal to 22.3. Whenever we have some dot in the number, that thing we consider as a float generally, right? So Python also able to recognize it. When I give like this, user is trying to store the float value. Yeah, float is assigned. So that means that Python is able to recognize and assign the appropriate data type or not. If I want to store the list, let's say data is some variable name and some random empty list. I'm just typing the type. Getting? It is a list because it is empty list. This data type is list. Python is able to recognize it and assign it this type to this variable. Like that, type of 1, 2. This one is actually the tuple. Let me see this. Am I getting tuple or not? Python is able to recognize this brackets as a tuple. So like that, here we no need to define a data type while creating variables like in other programming language. That's why Python syntax is very easy compared to other things. You guys will struck here only what data type should be used to store some particular object. If you are dealing with number, you should have to know, we have to use int here to store number. Otherwise, we have to dig into that. But here, it can store any object, whatever you give to this variable. But type checking and all will take care by the Python programming language engine. Okay. Clear this point, everyone? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Rules to define a variable names. We already yesterday discussed about rules. What are the legal rules? What are the illegal variable names? What are the legal variable names? Okay. Is this valid or invalid? My where? Valid, right? This variable name is allowed, right? Here also underscore is allowed. Underscore can be anywhere in the variable. And a combination of small letters and capital letters could be there in the variable. All uppercase also still possible. And my too, variable can contains the numbers, digits also. It's quite possible. And illegal variables, that means Python does not allow to create variables with this format. Here, if you observe it, to myvar, that means that this variable is starting with number. As per our yesterday class, identifier name should not start with number, right? Everyone agree? Number could be there in variable at least after one alphabet, but not as a first character in the identifier. Hyphen also not allowed. Only one special symbol that allowed in Python, what? Underscore only. We cannot use any other symbol in the identifier name except the underscore symbol. This hyphen is also invalid. Python does not allow you to, even if we try to do that, let me copy this, paste here. It simply, see it, syntax error, right? If I do say underscore where, it is allowing. If even it won't allow space also, because space also one character. Syntax error, right? So only one special symbol, what is allowed? Only the underscore. You see here, space also not allowed. Python is one last point. Python is case sensitive language. Means A and AR, small a and capital A is treated as a different character. Clear? Yeah. Let me stop the recording.